Hello, everybody. It is 3:30, which of course means it's time for one of our afternoon STEM shows here at the Headwaters Science Center. My name is Ryan. I'm one of the educators here at HSC. And as I typically am doing on Friday, I'm doing a little bit of a follow-up show today. So if you want to get some more context for what I'm talking about, Lee on Wednesday read slash kind of flipped through and briefed a handful of books, kind of all having to do with shots and vaccines and the like. And so in particular, he read through this one about Dr. Jonas Salk, kind of a little bit about his life history and the history of his research developing the polio vaccine. He also kind of briefly looked through this book here that was about vaccines. They said we didn't stop and read necessarily every single page, every single word of this book, but it's kind of a fun one. It's got all kinds of graphics in it. It's got a lot of text, which is why we didn't read all of it. But in particular, it has a page here that I think I'm going to read out to us that is about something called herd immunity. And herd immunity is something you've probably heard referenced at some point in the last couple years here in relation to COVID, but maybe you've never actually stopped and looked into what is actually meant by herd immunity, what it means for a population to actually achieve herd immunity, or kind of what levels of herd immunity are. So I'm going to read this out for you, and we'll take a little bit closer look at this graphic here once I'm done. So, herd immunity. Vaccinating the majority of people in a population creates herd immunity. Herd immunity means resistance to the spread of infection within a population. It comes about when a high proportion of individuals in that population are immune to the disease thanks to vaccination. Anyone who has not been vaccinated is very unlikely to come into contact with someone with the disease. The disease is therefore prevented from spreading and dies out. Herd immunity protects both the majority of people who have been vaccinated and also the few people who have not been vaccinated. The more contagious a disease is, the more people need to be vaccinated for herd immunity to work. This diagram shows how it works. And so you can see we have these two diagrams here that hopefully are somewhat visible for you. But in diagram one, so we can see with the blue and the red people here, this is a population where nobody is vaccinated. And so you have the people in the red are the people who contracted our disease, and the blue people around them don't have any particular means of protection against that disease other than whatever natural immune system they have and just the dumb luck of whether they get infected or not. And what you see is before too long we have a population where the vast majority of people become infected with that disease. In contrast, in our other graphic here, where we have the yellow people mixed in, and so in this one, the red people are still infected, the blue people are still our non-vaccinated people. We also have this population of yellow people who are vaccinated, so they have some level of additional protection from the disease beyond just their natural immune systems. And what we see is that we do have red people that get infected, and we have, like I said, still a handful of blue people who aren't vaccinated, but over a similar span of time, presumably, the infected make up a much lesser proportion of the population, because the disease can't spread as quickly or as easily. And so, our two people that are infected only become 4 in this one, whereas our 2 people become however many that is in that one.
Almost all.
Yeah. And so, the question is, why would people not be vaccinated? Like, what's the rationale for it? What causes non-vaccination? What is, why try and achieve sort of herd immunity? And the truth is, the goal of herd immunity is to protect people who, for whatever reason, cannot be vaccinated. So there are people out there, people who maybe, aren't of an age that it's appropriate to get vaccinated for certain vaccines. So
Infants, for example.
Yeah, so for example, the COVID vaccine is not approved for anyone under 5 years old right now. So we have a big portion of the population who can't get the vaccine because they can't get it legally. There might be people,
safe, right?
Yeah, there might be people who are immunocompromised and can't get the vaccine. So say you're somebody who has, HIV/AIDS, or, maybe is going through chemotherapy right now, or, has recently gotten an organ transplant and is immunocompromised for that. There are subsets of the population who, for their own personal safety, cannot get a vaccine. But there's also a portion of people who choose not to get a vaccine, people who would be fully capable of safely taking a vaccine, but choose not to. And unfortunately, in the case of COVID, that is the vast, vast majority of people who are not getting vaccinated for it are people who would be able to take it, but are choosing not to for any of a variety of reasons. And so what I think I want to do here is I have in front of me a bunch of dice of varying colors here. And we're going to do a little exercise. We're going to explore kind of just the sort of the mechanics of herd immunity. And I've got James on the other side of the camera for me, who's going to be tracking our data as we do it. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a population of people that are going to be represented by our various types of dice here. And we're going to run through probably a couple trials here of introducing a disease to these people and seeing what happens with vaccinated and unvaccinated populations within that community. And so I think we're going to do a 20-person population. That's about what we were working on.
Should we define all of the dice to start?
Yep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. So what we're going to start with, and you'll excuse me because they only have pictures on one side of them, but our skunks, our white die with the black dots, are going to represent our unvaccinated population. Our frogs, so our white die with the green dots, are going to represent our vaccinated population. Our beetles, so the kind of blue and yellow and green die, are going to represent our population of people who are not vaccinated and get infected with our disease. And our brown ones, our bears, are going to represent our population that is vaccinated but gets infected anyway, basically.
And then maybe, now that we've defined that, we should define the rules, which are behind
so there's
you here.
text on the wall behind me that you can hopefully read. And basically what we have here is I'm going to be rolling some of these guys. So these are 10-sided die. Might be a die you're not familiar with if you're not a big tabletop gaming guy, but 10-sided die. And basically every time I roll my population here, we're going to be doing a little bit of measuring. We're going to be doing a little bit of odds calculating here, basically using our dice. And what we're going to do is say, for example, I'm going to introduce one infected person into our base population of uninfected people. And I'm not going to do this right this second, but just as an example, if we have this here and I were to drop our infected person right here, we're going to say that everybody within one dice width gets an exposure. So if I can't fit a dice in between, that means that that person gets exposed. So in this situation, these 4 people would have gotten exposed. These are all unvaccinated people. These are our skunks. And so because they got exposed, now they're going to enter
up to the board.
Our rules back here. And so in our rules, what I'm going to say is that every one of these people, I'm going to roll the dice for. So 4 people, 4 dice. Whoops. And if I roll a 1 through 5 on my dice, I'm going to say those people get infected, so those people would become beetles. On a 6 through 10, they're not going to become infected. So in this case, 2 of them became infected. 2 of them didn't. So 2 of our skunks get replaced by 2 beetles.
Okay. And then can you roll on the 1 infected already?
Yep. And so then at the end of every round, I'm going to roll for all of our infected people that were infected the previous round. And this is going to be their likelihood of dying from our disease or getting cured of our disease. And so for our infected people who are not vaccinated, we're going to say that on a 1 through 3, they die, and on a 10, they just get over the disease and they're fine. They go back to being skunks. And so we'll roll. This person got an 8, so they survive, but they're also not cured.
They're still infected.
And so they just re-enter the population, and so we still have 20 people in our population, but now we have 3 infected rather than 1.
Yeah, so we have 17 unvax uninfected, 3 unvax infected.
Yeah. But remember, this I was faking it that time.
Oh, that was a warm up. Okay.
Yeah.
You are so ready.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, James is ready with the data over there. All right. So now we'll do it for real. So, like I said, we have now 19 skunks, 1 beetle, 19 unvaccinated
but healthy,
and 1 unvaccinated
infected
with our disease. So I'm going to roll all these dice, spread them all out, and our dice spread out quite a ways. That one actually isn't going to make it, and so we might get really lucky here where our dice spread out too far. Our person went into quarantine after they got sick. They didn't spread it to anybody. And they might, if we're lucky, this person either gets cured or, I guess less lucky would be they just die. But then they don't spread their disease anymore.
Pandemic, right. We could get a SARS-CoV-1.
And so, yeah, they died.
And
so our population is saved. That's the end of trial 1.
And so that's the end of trial 1. That represents what happened in the first SARS virus. It killed its host too fast, and that ended the infective population right off the bat.
So yeah, let's try that again. We'll do the same thing, 19 skunks, 1 beetle, so let's trial 1. Our 1 infected person died off before they could infect anybody else, which isn't your most desirable outcome. You'd love for that person to survive their disease, but hey, in the absence of that, it's probably your second best outcome.
Right.
This person's spreading a little bit. So we got 2 here that definitely got exposed. And
now we roll to see if they get infected.
Yeah, we're gonna roll 2d10s, so if either of these are a 5 or lower, they get infected. So one of them gets infected.
Okay. And then
one of them is fine. And now we also got to roll for this guy to see if they survive their bout with our mystery disease. They don't. They died.
Okay. So we end up with 18 unvaccinated, uninfected, and 1 infected.
Yep. So yeah, we have 18 skunks, 1 beetle. Yep. And then one dead beetle.
Okay. So this pandemic, unlike the first round, has taken its toll already and persisted.
Alright. Again, we got 2
more exposures.
2 exposures. We'll roll for our 2 exposed skunks. So again, 1 gets infected. 1 makes it through because they rolled a 6. Whoops, that's the wrong dice. And we'll roll for our previously infected person, see if they make it. And they survive. So now we have 17 skunks and 2 beetles.
Right. So good for the person who was infected, less good for the rest of the people.
Yep.
And so we should still be at 19 total people, right?
Yep. Need bigger hands for all these dice. Again, 2 exposures it looks like.
Yep.
And let's see if they get infected. Both of them get infected.
Both get infected.
And our 2 previously infected people. No, one of them dies. 1 death. And the other one continues existing.
Okay, so now we should have 3... Is it 3...
3 non-vax infected, and it should be...
16 skunks?
15 skunks.
15 skunks.
We've had 2 deaths, yep.
Oh, right. Okay.
Ooh, that might be a nobody. Seems close. Yeah, I'm gonna say that one's an exposure.
Got 1 exposure.
1 exposure. And they caught it.
Okay.
And 3.
Doesn't take much.
Nope. They were close. They rolled a 4. They almost got away with it. This person actually gets cured, so they go back to being a skunk because they rolled a 10. This person died. And this person just re-enters the population. So now we are at 2 infected and should still be 15 skunks, right?
Right. Because 1 died there, right?
Yep. Yep. Looks like another 2 exposures there. 1 person catches it, 1 doesn't. And previous 2 people, they don't cure, but they are still alive. So 1 skunk becomes 1 beetle in that one. One non-vaccinated becomes infected.
So it should be 3 infected?
Yep, 3 infected, 14 unvaxxed and non-infected. Okay. 1 person. 2, 3. 3 exposed that time. And only 1 of them catches it from their exposure. It's pretty good odds there for them. And then our 3 previously infected got a roll to live. And actually, wow, 1 of them died.
Okay.
But 2 of them got over it.
Wow. Pretty lucky spread pattern, I gotta say. So are we at 1 infected?
Should be 1 infected and 15 non.
Right, because we should add up to 16 because 1 died. Okay.
4 have died.
Yep.
It's gonna be 1, 2 exposures. Actually, that might even be 3. Nope, just barely. So 1 catches it, 1 doesn't, and then this person dies.
Oh man.
Our disease is killing our patients off more quickly than it can spread.
Which is just kind of a matter of chance in this situation.
Yeah.
So we just lost.
So yeah, we're at 5 dead, 1 infected, 14.
14 and 1.
This might be our shot. Our 1 infected person
this
quarantined.
Could be the end of the pandemic.
Nope.
Nope.
No change in that one.
Everything stays the same.
But it shows how quarantine is an effective way.
It's true. There was a 1 in, well, like basically a 4 out of 10 shot that the quarantine ended right there.
Yep.
1 in 3 shot they die. 1 in 10, or 1 in 3 and 4, 3 and 10 shot that they die. 1 in 10 shot they get cured. It's gonna be 2.
Couple exposures. But when they go back out into the population like that, it spreads anew.
Yeah, we get another infected person. Our 50-50 infection rate is holding very true.
Interesting.
And they're fine.
And you're fine.
Still infected, but not dead.
Okay, so now we're at 13 and 2.
Sounds right. Yep. Two more exposures. Both infected.
Kind of makes you think about the surge and kind
We're at
of.
11.
Well, we'll see.
Oh yeah, that's right.
One of them died.
Oh,
So 3 and 11.
Yeah.
3 and... Is this 6? Yeah.
Yeah. 6 deaths, 3 infected, 11. Whoop,
11 alive.
11 alive. That person fell off the world, but they're back.
They just entered another dimension.
Two exposures there.
Yep.
Neither of them get infected though.
Got pretty lucky.
1 died. 1 got cured. 1 stays normal.
Death rate is now 7.
Yeah. So we started with a population of 20, so almost half our population is dead we're approaching here.
So now it's 1 in 12.
Yep, 1 infected, 12 non-infected. Ooh.
That's
That person
3.
went to a party.
Yep, that person, yeah.
3 exposures from 1.
Yep.
That person's fine. These 2 both get infected.
Well, they have been a big spreader.
Yep. And they continue existing. So 3 and 10 now, right?
Did nobody died there?
Yep. So
Yep.
3
3 and
infected,
10.
10 non.
I'm interested to see this all graph.
Well, 2 of these people were pretty responsible. This one went out and got 1 person infected though.
Yeah. 1 person was way out there. They were completely
Or
quarantined.
exposed, and they did get infected.
Yep.
And now we gotta roll 3 for them to see how many survivors we have. 1 of them dies.
They're now 8 over here.
Yeah. So we got 8, 3, and 9. Right.
3 and 9.
Wait, 8, 3, and 9? Oh, 9 dead. Right.
No, 8 dead. 9.
8 are over here.
So there should be 9 unvaccinated, uninfected.
Yep.
Okay. And then
3 infected,
Okay.
8 dead.
Got it.
That's definitely 1. Person came close, but they got away with it. This person gets infected, though. And we'll see about our... Oof, they all 3 died.
Oh no!
Uh-oh.
So this has arrived at 11. So 11 out of the original 20.
6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're down to 9 alive.
So we just lost 2?
We lost 3.
There are 11 over here now.
Yeah, 3 died. So we're at...
Oh, and then added 1 new infected?
We're at 8 non-infected, 1 infected, and now 11 deaths.
Wow.
Oh, there we go. Nobody infected.
Maybe
Our population density is getting low enough.
Yep.
Oh, they keep going.
Another round.
Just one.
And they save. They don't get infected.
Okay. Same again.
Same again.
There's an infection.
An exposure.
Or an
We don't know if it's an
exposure, I mean.
infection. It is an infection. Oh, I
Okay.
forgot to roll to see if that person actually survived last time. They did. But now they're dead.
Okay, so they die. We'll say they die on this one.
They die on this one. They survived last time. They died on this one.
So now it should be 7 and 1.
Yes.
12 over here.
Let's
Looks like an exposure.
be very precise here. Oh, that's touching. That's 1 exposure. And they catch it.
Okay.
But they recover.
Recover.
We have a recovery. So our numbers are the same, but one of our infected is now no longer infected. They infected somebody else on their way out.
Mm-hmm.
Sneezed on somebody on their way into the hospital.
7 and 1 again. Okay.
That's 2 exposures. Both of them saved, though.
All right. So same.
This could, yep. Well, this could be, we gotta roll and see if our person survives.
Oh, right.
They get cured.
Wow, the pandemic's over.
The pandemic is over. Our disease has been eradicated. We have, starting on a population of 20, we are left with
8.
8.
Brutal.
So,
Die in this particular example.
yeah. So that was with no vaccines ever getting implemented ever in that scenario. Like I said, we started off with 1 person. We ran it with the odds that we set up on our thing behind there. And let's see, what's 12 out of 20? 60% of our population died.
Let's see here. I'm gonna make a little graph here. Okay, I'll share this. And Ryan, if you want to come around, you can look too. So, here is how our little fake pandemic just there, or I shouldn't say fake, but our simulated pandemic just worked. So we can see at the bottom here, we have those who were infected. That's the yellow line, and we can see a few surges. We can see a surge at day 3, around peaks at 4, goes down, surges again, and then drops back down to that sort of basal level, that low underlying level of 1. And we can see on the opposite way that after a surge, then you get a death spike, and more people drop, especially like...
Yeah, there was that one day where all 3 of the people who... They infected 1 person, then all 3 of the previously infected people died on the same time.
Right, exactly. And so even though we only had a few infected every day, with an endemic in the population like that, we can see we ended up losing, I think it was 12 people. So that's...
60% of our population.
Yeah.
So if you think about that in the context of, a country the size of the U.S., 60% of the U.S. population is 200 million people died.
So that just shows, it might not look that crazy with these small numbers, but that would be like the Black Plague in Europe in the 1300s. That would be that level of pandemic.
I said it honestly, I feel like that went better than probably the odds would have been for
predicted,
it.
Right, I know. It's pretty surprising that it didn't go geometric there.
Yeah, we're kind of fortunate with our population was kind of fortunate with the rate that they were dying.
Yeah.
Is that if our disease had a call it
lower
like
death
a
rate.
1 in 2 die. Like, we might end up with our whole population wiped out.
Yep.
Alright.
So that's the thing that's interesting is that, in fact, the higher death rate is probably what spared more lives at the end of the day.
I said, in a situation where we didn't have any vaccines in it. So we're going to run that same thing again, except we're going to say once we document 5 infections, we're going to integrate a vaccine into our population.
Right.
And we'll say half of whatever is remaining is going to get vaccinated. So 50% vaccination rate. We'll say round it up. If it's not a number, we'll give the vaccinated the benefit of the 1.
So let me just real quick get this spreadsheet set up again. Okay. Whoops. Delete.
Yeah, we're going to start out with our same population that we had before. So I have here 19 skunks. So our skunks are going to stay as our unvaccinated and uninfected. Our beetles are going to stay as our infected unvaccinated. I'm going to, at some point here, start integrating the frogs into it, which are going to be our vaccinated and uninfected. And eventually, maybe, the bears are going to be our vaccinated and infected.
The breakthroughs, if you will.
Yeah. Alright. So, let's gather up all our dice again. So this tray's kind of interesting. It's domed in the middle, so if I throw them in the middle, it spreads everybody out. So you gotta throw them in.
It's the social distancing tray.
Alrighty. 20 people. 19
And 1.
19 and 1.
Oh,
And our 1 did a lot of...
R1 just
lot
did a
of
super
contact.
spreader.
Which, like, is very reasonable. Like, they don't know that there's, like, this disease happening. There's one person who has it in their population. Like, it would be weird for them to be taking, like, major measures against
Right.
something like this, because they don't know. But, you know, that's how stuff like this gets off the ground.
Early days.
So we're going to roll our 5 dice here and see what happened to these 5. And we're going to keep our same odds, so on a 1 through 5, these people are going to get infected. Only one of them gets infected.
Wow. 18 and maybe 2. We'll see. We'll see if the 1 dies.
And then, yeah, we have to see if our previous person dies. They don't.
Okay.
Don't die, don't get cured.
18 and 2. It looks
It's
like
only going to be 1.
just 1.
Just 1.
Kind of hard to see at this angle.
And they do get infected, though.
Okay.
So as our 3rd documented case. Well, I gotta see if these people die. Nope.
Same.
So yeah, same. So still equal in 20. We got 3 and 17 now.
Uh-oh.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 exposures. Or no, 5 exposures.
Was there a 5th?
Yeah, I picked up 2 with one finger.
Oh,
I counted
okay.
it as 1 when I was counting it out loud.
All right.
5 exposures. So, 2 infected, 3 get away.
Okay.
Oh shoot. 1 second. I gotta count how many I got total now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, I messed that up. There we go. Okay, so yeah, 5 infected, 15 uninfected.
Right.
And now I gotta roll to see if my other 3 previously infected people survive. 1 of them dies. First death.
Rip.
That also is our 5th documented case, though, which means our vaccine has been implemented.
Okay, so now we're to 4. 4
Yeah, we
who are
have 4.
sick, 15 not sick.
Yeah, we have 4 unvaccinated infected, 1 unvaccinated dead,
Okay.
and I'm about to change half of our skunks into frogs.
Okay. So instead of the 15 and 4, now I should say that there are X vaccinated.
Yeah. So, like
So
I said,
should I say 8 vaccinated or
yeah,
7
we're going to say
vaccinated?
8 vaccinated.
8 vaccinated, 7
So
unvaccinated.
we had our vaccine rollout. It has 50% adoption rate.
Okay.
So we
So
now
I'm
have
gonna
vax.
change that 15 on that column, or on that row, I mean. And we should total 19?
Yeah, we should have 19 total.
Okay. So now the rules change a little bit for those who are vaccinated.
Yeah, and so the people who are vaccinated are going to be just as likely to get exposed as the people who aren't vaccinated, but their rate of infection is going to be lower. They're going to have to roll worse on their dice to get infected.
So they have to roll a 1 or a 2 instead of a 1 through a 5.
Yeah, their death rate is going to be lower, so they need to roll a 1 rather than a 1 through 3 to die. And their cure rate is also going to be higher, so if they roll either a 9 or a 10, they're going to get cured versus 10 for the skunks, for the unvaccinated.
Yeah, and in terms of COVID, these are actually more generous numbers than the reality.
Yeah, our real death rate is much higher, but our relative death rate of vaccinated to unvaccinated is generous to the unvaccinated
Right.
in COVID terms.
And yet we will still see.
All right, so a lot of exposures there. A lot of vaccinated exposure, though.
Yep. So we'll test how effective those vaccines are here.
Yep. So yeah, we had a ton of exposures that round. That's far and away our highest exposure round we've ever had. We had 10 exposures happen. 4 of them in unvaccinated people. So these people are going to get infected in a 1 through 5 on the die. And 3 of them.
3 of 4 get infected, huh?
3 of 4 get infected. And like I said, we gave them 50-50 odds on it. So. And then with our vaccinated, they have to only roll higher than a 2.
Oh, or a 2,
Or
right.
is it
1 or
those?
2.
Yeah.
One
One
or
or a
two.
2, they get infected.
Right.
So anybody who rolls higher than a 2 does not get infected. So 2 of them get infected.
Yeah, but there was a larger pool.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting.
Enter 2 bears.
So we added 5, so you need to roll on
And I need to roll on 4. And they're all unvaxxed people, so these guys die on a 1 through 3. And 2 of them die.
2 deaths. So now total, we are at
Should be 17 total people.
17 total people. We have
5 unvaccinated infected, 2 vaccinated infected, 4 unvaccinated uninfected, and 6 vaccinated uninfected. Does that math out right?
yes.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17.
Oh wait, and I haven't been recording unvaccinated dead. That's the issue. But it doesn't matter.
Oh.
I've
Well,
just been
there's-
recording total instead, so I'll just.
So yeah, currently they're all we haven't had any vaccinated dead
Right.
yet.
I'm just
so-
gonna get rid of those columns because I forgot to do that on the last one.
Well, we didn't have a vaccine in the last one.
Right, but I also wasn't recording unvaccinated dead.
Oh, you just weren't recording dead at all?
I just have total.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we'll roll again. And now bears, we're saying, are just as likely to spread as well, which, again, is being generous to the unvaccinated.
Right.
And most data I've seen seems to imply that if you're vaccinated, you're also less likely to spread the disease, in the context of COVID, at least.
So again, we'll see, even in worse circumstances, the effectiveness of a vaccine. At least that's the most likely outcome. That would be the hope. The hypothesis.
All right. You're gonna be. You. We have one person who didn't have the disease that didn't get exposed that round.
Yeah.
So
Just shows how quickly you can go geometric like that.
Yeah. So we have 4 unvaxxed who got exposed. Our entire unvaxxed population got exposed. And only one of them gets infected this time. So they got a little unlucky last round, and they got a little lucky this round. We should keep those separated so I remember to roll.
Right.
We'll do 5, so these guys are vaccinated that got exposed. And one of them gets it as well. So 1 frog becomes a bear. And then we gotta roll our survivals over here. So 5 of them are rolling. And if they get a 1 through 3, they die. So only one of them dies. And these ones, they have to roll a 1 to die for the bears. And both of them are fine.
Okay.
But neither of them get cured either.
So on that one, now we have...
Actually, one of our beetles actually got cured too. I
Oh,
forgot to talk
okay.
about that.
So at the end of the day, we should have 3 unvaxxed or 3 unvaxxed infected, or 4.
3 vaxxed infected.
3 vaxxed infected.
5 vaxxed uninfected, and then 4
Unvaxxed
uninfected. So yeah, for the unvaxxed uninfected, 1 person caught it this round, but 1 person got cured.
Okay.
So even now.
So that should all add up to 12? I mean, not 12. 16?
16 should be
yeah.
what we got. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep.
Okay. Alright. There's some exposures. There's some exposures.
We got 7 exposures, 4 unvaxxed, 3 vaxxed. Our unvaxxed, only 1 catches it again. Lucky for them. Our vaxxed, 1 of them catches it. Do that. And now let's roll for our previously infected. So our unvaxxed, 1 dies. And in our vaxxed, 1 gets cured. 1 goes back to being a frog.
Okay. So, total we have, is it 3 skunks?
Yep, there are 3 skunks.
4 greens. 5 frogs.
Yep, and 3 bears.
And 3 bears.
Yep, so we have 5 vaccinated but uninfected, 3 vaccinated and infected, 4 unvaxxed and infected, and 3 unvaxxed and infected and uninfected.
And I think so far, not a single vaccinated infected has died.
Nope. We have had 5 deaths so far this round, and all of them have been unvaccinated. Only 4 exposures that time. That's better than some of our previous rounds.
We had some quarantines on that one.
2 and 2. So these are going to be our unvaxxed. 1 of them gets infected. Now our vaccinated people. Neither of them get infected.
There you go.
Now we'll roll for our unvaxxed people to see if they survive. We have 1 that dies, and 1 that gets cured.
Okay. 1 got over it. So,
and for our bears, our vaxxed infected, we have 1 that dies.
can happen.
But we also have 1 that gets cured.
Maybe that person who died had diabetes, or they had previously had pneumonia.
Yep.
Oh, there's all sorts of
Could
things.
be an age thing.
Yep.
Could just be bad luck.
So right now, we have 3 greens.
Yeah, we have 3 unvaxxed infected, 3 unvaxxed uninfected, 6 vaxxed uninfected, and 1 vaxxed infected.
Interesting. I mean, you can sort of see the bias now.
Yeah.
And do we have 13 total now?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Big exposure?
Well, we have a stackage that happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that you infected both of those.
Yeah.
You and you and you.
Those people were singing choir together without masks.
Alright. 2 unvaxxed. One of them catches it. 3 vaxxed. One of them catches it. 3 unvaxxed infected. None of them die. 1 vaxxed infected.
No change?
Nothing changes there.
Okay, so at the end of the day, we have how many skunks?
We have 2 skunks, 4 beetles,
4 beetles,
5 frogs, and 2 bears.
5 frogs, and 2 bears. And so no deaths there.
No deaths in that one. It's gonna be one. That's one. That's one. That's one. That's one. 5 exposures. For our unvaxxed, one of them catches it. For our vaxxed, none of them catch it. For our people who previously were infected of our unvaxxed, 2 of them die.
Rip.
And then the other 2 are standing pat. And for our vaxxed infected, one of them dies, one of them gets cured.
Interesting.
So our relative infected population is starting to fall.
Yeah, so now we're at
We are at
sorry.
1 unvaxxed uninfected, 3 unvaxxed infected, and 6 vaxxed uninfected, and 0 vaxxed infected.
I'm gonna make 2 new columns. I'm gonna make one that's total unvax and one that's total vax.
James working on some spreadsheet wizardry on the other side there. The other thing that's interesting here is we're approaching our death rate at the last one. The death rate is 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, we had 12 die in the last one. We've had 10 die so far in this one, and 3 infections still out there active. But it's been obviously very disproportionately the unvaccinated that are dying.
Right.
You know, we started out with 8 vaccinated, and we still have 6 of those left. Our disease got off to a much faster start this time around.
Yeah, this will be an interesting outcome.
Ooh. I think it's just going to be 1 exposure. Well,
1 exposure.
2 exposures.
2 exposures.
2 exposures, both of them to vaccinated people. One of them gets infected, so 1 frog becomes a bear.
Okay.
And then our 3... One of them gets cured.
Alright.
So 1 beetle becomes a skunk. And nobody dies.
So
Good round for the unvaccinated.
Right, so we're going 2
2 skunks, 2 beetles,
2 beetles.
5 frogs, 1 bear.
Got it.
Two exposures, both of them vaccinated. Neither of them catch it. One of our unvaxxed unvaxxed infected dies. So 1 more death.
So we have 1 skunk or 2 skunks.
2 skunks, 1 beetle,
1 beetle,
5 frogs,
5 frogs,
1 bear.
1 bear. And so what we're seeing right now, and that we'll see in the data once we look at it, is that there are double the vaccinated as opposed to unvaccinated right now.
Yeah.
3
3
exposures.
exposures, 2 of them unvaccinated. Both of our skunks got exposed. Neither of them catch it though.
Lucky.
And our vaccinated person also doesn't catch it. Let's see about our person doesn't die but doesn't get cured. This person also doesn't die and doesn't get cured. No change.
Okay, so exact same numbers as last time?
Yep. Looks like just 1 exposure of a vaccinated person. And they're fine. Our unvaxxed person is also fine. And our vaxxed person is also fine. No change again.
All right.
Two exposures. Both vaxxed. Neither of them catch it. Our unvaxxed person died.
Okay.
And our vaxxed person still out there. So we're down to 1 infected person and they are vaxxed.
So are we two skunks,
2 skunks,
0 beetles,
0 beetles,
5
frogs,
and 1
1 bear.
bear. Okay.
Oh, bear isolated.
Good work, bear.
No change.
No change.
But they rolled a 3. If they were not vaccinated, they would have died.
Right. There you go. You didn't think about that for sure. Okay, so no change on that one.
It's gonna be 1 for sure. 2. 2 exposures, and there are 2 non-vaccinated people.
The restaurants opened up.
Yeah. One of them gets infected.
Unfortunate.
And our bear gets cured.
And our bear is cured. So now
But we
we're
still
at
have 1 in the population that's infected.
right. So we have 1 unvaccinated, uninfected, 1 beetle,
And 6 frogs.
6 and 0. Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's taken forever, but it's fun.
But I'm just really interested to see this graph, and we're getting close now.
1 exposure to a vaccinated person. They don't get infected.
All right.
So if this is a 1 through 3, our person dies and the pandemic ends. If it's a 10, our person gets cured and the pandemic ends. 40% chance it ends right here. Nope.
All right. Round to another round. So that was
a 7.
that was 1160 again.
Yeah. 2 exposures.
Okay.
1 vaxxed, 1 unvaxxed. Roll the unvaxxed first. They're fine. Roll the vaxxed. They get infected.
Unfortunate.
And our unvaxxed infected dies.
Oh man.
But we still have 1 in the population.
So now we have 1 unvaxxed, 0 beetles, 5 frogs,
1
and
bear.
1 bear. Okay. So we should have 7 total?
Yep.
Okay. 1 exposure.
Calling it 2 exposures,
two.
both 2 vaccinated people. Neither of them catch it.
Alright.
Good thing I wrote my rules on the back. Doesn't quite get cured. They rolled an 8. They need a 9 to get cured, so no change on that one.
Got long COVID.
We have 1 exposure, and it's to our 1 unvaccinated person.
Oh no.
They don't catch it, though.
Lucky.
And our bear dies.
And that's it.
And that's the end of our disease.
Okay. Time for a little bit of graphing.
So yeah, our final population, we had 6 that remain. 5 of them vaccinated, 1 unvaxxed.
Yeah, there's a big disparity because the unvaccinated started 11,
Yeah.
and there were only 8 vaccinated because there were some people who were infected at that point.
Yeah, we started with a population of 19 skunks and 1 beetle. And then once we had our 5th skunk to beetle conversion is when we introduced our frogs. So we turned 8 of the 15 remaining people into frogs. So of those 8, 5 of them remained, and of the 7 skunks that were there, only 1 remains.
All right, if you want to come back around, Ryan, and we can read this graph.
We'll take a look at our dead as well.
Yep. Okay. So let's read through this graph. Let's start by looking at the dark blue line. That's just showing the death total. And that brought us down at the end to 6, I believe. Yep, 6. So pandemic went on a little bit longer than the previous pandemic we simulated. But still 2 more people died. We would have to do some statistics to know if there's a significant difference there.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I think, is that it did stretch out a lot longer, and we ended up with more deaths. And I wonder if a big part of that is because we had so many more people that were living longer with the disease because they were vaccinated.
Right.
So they weren't dying off as quickly, so they were remaining in the population and spreading it around longer.
Yeah, so next...
We should have documented how many got exposed by vaccinated versus unvaccinated people.
But so now let's look at least at total unvaccinated versus total vaccinated. So at the very start, there's no vaccinated because it doesn't exist yet. Then at day 3, after 5 exposures, we invent the vaccine, and it jumps to, I think it's 8 people who are vaccinated, 11 people unvaccinated, 7 of them are healthy at that point. And you'll see that there's a steady kind of logistic decrease in the light blue line, showing the unvaccinated having a pretty consistent death rate as the pandemic stretches on. But at the same time, the dark green line, which is the total vaccinated, they stay pretty healthy. And by the end of it, there's a large disparity between those who are alive being dark green versus light blue.
Our light blue almost went fully extinct there. Our unvaccinated people, they said one of them made it through to the other end.
Right, and they had more people when that split happened. They had more people.
Yeah, because I think one person died that same day that we introduced the vaccine, and so at the start of that we had 8 people who were vaccinated compared to, we said 11 that were unvaccinated, and we had a 90+% death rate among our vaccinated versus what's 5 out of 8 like a 40% death rate. 30.
I should know this. Is it 0.5, 0.625? Yeah 0.625 or no,
the opposite of that. 37% death rate or something like that among our unvaccinated compared to, you said it's like a 93 or something like that % death rate of our unvaccinated.
So I mean, this is not really it's not super directly relatable to reality in terms of number dead, but what it shows is that they're in our little simulated universe, which was using less forgiving rules to the vaccine.
Like I said, in certain contexts it was more forgiving, and other contexts it was less. Because, like I said, we think about like our raw death rate. Like there hasn't been diseases that have had a 30% death rate that have had this proclivity in a long time.
Yeah.
Since what's the death rate of like smallpox? It's
pretty high probably. I don't know exactly. But...
We're talking about like a smallpox, like Black Plague caliber disease coming through here, which COVID, like as far as the death rate goes, isn't that.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, what this shows us, I think, is it sort of dramatizes the fact that even in our little simulated pandemic, you can see that being vaccinated really makes you safer.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, our death rate was higher than what you would see with COVID, but like I said, our infection rate was probably actually lower, in relative terms of
Right.
If we really wanted to go into this, what we should have done is tracked like individual dice. We should get 20 individual different types of dice and track like how many of our individuals like get infected and get cured and get infected again or whatever.
Right.
Like, there's all kinds of different metrics for this that we could have tracked. But like I said, just painting in broad streaks with the dice that I found down in the gift shop today.
Yeah. I think
as I said, it did basically exactly what I wanted it to, as far as the illustrating how exactly these vaccines work.
I think the thing to kind of take home at the end of the day is that in that vaccination simulation, 10 of 11 unvaccinated people died. 3 of 8 vaccinated people died. And that's really not, to be honest, that distinct from current COVID numbers regarding vaccination.
And I said, when we take a look at it, like, there are certain people who can't get vaccinated. They are physically, like, cannot, for their health, get vaccinated because of some condition they have.
Chemo is a very common one you mentioned earlier.
And so, I mean, we can say that maybe 5% of people are kind of in that block. It's probably, honestly, more than what the reality is. But if we were to say one person in this block is somebody who physically cannot get vaccinated, what are the odds that they were this one and not one of this pile over here who, died because the other skunks chose not to get vaccinated for some reason.
Exactly.
The one person who didn't have a choice probably isn't this one. It's probably one of these.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of the main takeaway we want to have here is that, like I said, the idea of herd immunity is that it's something that you're doing for the good of everyone else around you. You're taking on, a minor inconvenience. That's getting a shot, like, stings a little bit. Yes, you might get a little nauseous that evening or the next day. I got very sick after my first round of COVID shots.
I got pretty sick after my booster.
Yeah.
But but at the same time, there was no danger. It was just unpleasant.
Yeah. And I said the turnaround is that, somebody who's going through chemo right now is a little bit safer.
Yeah.
And, like, that's something that that's an inconvenience I'm more than happy to take on to save somebody else.
And it's something that I guess I'll say that I believe that if you feel you have a responsibility to your community, that then you should get vaccinated. That's my personal view.
And I mean, I was talking about this with Lee before we started earlier today, and we were saying how crazy it is that, here at the Science Center, we've had one staff person catch COVID this whole time, and it was James, who's on the camera right now.
Yep.
We have 10 staff here. One of them has been infected. That's as far as we know, I guess. And we work in a space where we are interacting directly with the public a lot, but we've had mask requirements for the vast majority of COVID. We've been requiring masks in our facility, and as far as I know, everybody here is, at the very least, gotten their first 2 COVID shots, and now probably, I think everybody has their booster, too.
Right.
Because when you got infected, you hadn't gotten your booster
I
yet,
hadn't
right?
got my booster, and I ended up getting it from my family, not from work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's another part of it is accessibility to vaccines presents a big problem in certain contexts. So, like, for example, with the boosters, as somebody who is 31 and healthy, like, I couldn't get the booster right away. James, you're 22, 23, right? And so wasn't eligible for the booster right away when it came out.
Right.
And so was a little bit more at risk at that point because he couldn't get the full regimen of the shots because of limited accessibility. Certain population groups within the country have had limited accessibility to vaccines as well, just as far as, like, the way the rollouts have happened. So it's one of those things where, like, if you do have access to it, you can get it, and it's not, like, an immunocompromised situation where you, like, can't for your own health, you should get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that took an hour.
Oh my goodness.
But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully that was fun for you. I had fun rolling a bunch of dice. I don't know how well all that dice rolling is going to necessarily transfer over onto the camera. We'll watch this video later and see. But I think it was a fun visual anyway, and like I said, we at least got some fun graphs out of it. And I had a good time rolling a bunch of dice. I like rolling dice. Headwater Science Center is open 7 days a week, or open from 9:30 to 5. There's good indicating fingers of 9:30 to 5.
Yep.
Monday through Saturday, we're open from 1 to 5 on Sunday. So swing by after lunch on Sunday. Otherwise, we do these shows 3-ish, 4-ish times a week these days. Typically, there's going to be a Wednesday show that's going to be Lee reading some sort of story, some sort of children's-oriented story, typically, that he gets from the Bemidji Public Library. So Friday is usually me doing some sort of follow-up thing, and then usually Carl will, on one of the weekend days or sometimes Monday, do sort of a lecture type of one about some sort of prehistoric animal clade. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, like I said, tune in at 3:30. If you happen to be here at the Science Center while we're filming one of these, absolutely feel free to walk on up and watch, or maybe even participate if we're looking for participants. We've had a couple people walking past here, and nobody's really stopped and watched us too much, but we've had some rubberneckers come by as they've been walking past. So, again, thank you for watching.